welcome to Ray Sensation. I'm your host, Dan, and in this episode, we're going to be taking a look at The Adventures of Red Sonja Omnibus. Okay, so here we are, The Adventures of Red Sonja Omnibus. Now, I think the first thing I need to point out here is that there have been a lot of different sizes and formats put out for using the word omnibus in the last, 10, 15 years or so, probably more like 15 or 20 now. There are several YouTube channels devoted to people who only collect these giant ones like this that DC and Marvel put out. This is a massive 1,500 page. This is actually bigger than even the average Marvel and DC one. And this was originally $150 for crying out loud. Now I've only got this one omnibus of this type of thing, and that's because I found it on sale for $30, and it has a lot of stuff in it. I think the reason they had remaindered it is because a lot of these comics are not anyone's favorites, but it's Jack Kirby, for crying out loud. I picked it up. You can see how much smaller this is. This is more the size of a regular comic book, whereas these reprints are generally, these other ones are usually larger. They reprint some of the Savage Sword, which were in the black and white magazines. And they were larger format than a regular comic, so they're shrinking them down even more. But so the deal behind this is The Adventures of Red Sonja. It's being published by Dynamite, who have had the rights to release comics for a long time now, after Marvel lost the license. But this is the Marvel stuff. In this, I'm only familiar with like the first third of this. And then after that, I stopped buying the comics for a while, and that's not one of the things I picked back up. But Roy Thomas says in the foreword to this that he hopes this does well so that they release a volume 2 with the rest of the Marvel stuff. I had no idea Marvel had printed that many Red Sonja stories. Now, this collects books. They're going roughly in print order, not exactly, but roughly in print order. So it starts off with some of the short backup features that had Red Sonja in it. Then it does the Frank Thorne run of the regular Red Sonja, and that's the stuff I really liked. And then it's got colorized versions of the black and white Savage Sword and Red Sonja stuff, which look a little weird. I'll point some stuff out to you as we go through there. And those, since, like I said, the Savage Sword, that was magazine size, so it's really shrunk down for this. It only lists Roy Thomas, Bruce Jones, Frank Thorne, and John Buscema on the cover of this. But there are a lot more people who had artwork in here. There's some other people who get a writing credit, I believe. Let's take a look at this, okay? There's some of the covers, and I'm not gonna do a real long look through this one, just enough to give you an idea. And now, the big thing is here is talking about based on the hero created by Robert E. Howard, but Red Sonja is actually, Roy Thomas was trying to go chronological through Howard's stories as he was adapting Howard's works for the comics. And so, there was kind of this feeling that, Conan always had these fighting, sword-wielding women beside him, but they don't come till later in the series, and he wanted to have someone early on. So Red Sonja is actually someone who's really got not much of a presence in the Howard stories at all, and it's only one story, and it's not anything like what pops up here. So, but he really created the character of Red Sonja, wow, it turned out to be quite a good idea. That's his foreword. Now here's the first artwork, and this gives credit to Esteban Maroto. I think that's how you say his name. Neil Adams and Ernie Chan. So that's a heck of a lineup for a story, a backup story in an issue. Now this came after she had appeared in the Barry Windsor Smith illustrated Conan stories, and those are some fantastic stories. This is great. I love this. She's a little too model. Look how model looking she's there. But there's some great poses in here. But some of the poses are like, that is not the Red Sonja we know. I mean, because is she beautiful? Yes. Does she get to do action in here? Yes. But would she know to act so coquettish to throw the people off? That I don't think so. And then the second story, this is Dick, I think his name is Giordano, I believe. This one is kind of funky. That's not the greatest profile, and I really thought this shading here on her chest looks weird. And not the greatest artwork to start off the second story. But not terrible. And now here's the Frank Thorne stuff. And that's who really kind of gets the look of Red Sonja down. Now, he's also one of those people who likes to have those sexy poses. You know, I remember Frank Thorne, before I even saw the Red Sonja stuff, he was doing work other places. And he's a guy, he was I think as early as the 60s, he would go to sci-fi conventions and fantasy conventions dressed as like a wizard with pretty girls on each arm dressed as barmaids or something. And then, you know, eventually sword fighters and stuff like Red Sonja. You know, he's one of those horny drawing guys. But that suits Sonja. But the thing is, he's also really good with the action stuff. This is one thing. I really wish this had been printed bigger. I wish it would have been the larger size pages like those other omnibuses. I don't necessarily need a book that thick, that many pages. But boy, I would like to see these on bigger pages, because he absolutely crams so many panels on some of these things. Luckily, his art doesn't really seem to suffer for being done so small. You can still, you know, you have no trouble reading this stuff whatsoever. Now, I don't really like, I'm pointing this out because I immediately noticed as soon as I'm saying that looks a little wonky. You can't really see the shadows on the boy's body type. It looks like he looks like Bobby Hill or something there, whereas obviously he doesn't look like that in some of the other pictures. Yeah, this is a great story in this one. The stories are, you know, they're the usual sword and sorcery, cliches kind of things. And, you know, when you're doing these characters, you know, you're basically making characters, you know, Sonja's traveling around, meeting new people every week. And so obviously they're using cliched shorthands for everybody, you know. So really what you're looking at is how well did they tell that same old story? How great is the art? And I think they do a tremendous job. Roy Thomas, for my taste, always had too many words, you know, too much stuff to read that basically was telling you some stuff that it was already being shown in the art. And so I you know, kind of could do with a little paring down. Although I do remember reading in a letters column for some magazine where they're going like, you should have more captions and more thought balloons because it gives us more to read. We want more reading for our money. And it's like, if it's telling the same story, why do you want more reading? I never got that, but that is the thinking of some people. but terrific artwork. Like I said, I'm not going to flip through this whole thing, just showing off the way Thorne does these panels here, like this going down, and this isn't, sometimes they would have this as, to show the same angle moving, but he's actually jumping between different angles, showing stuff and doing the borders like that. There's one page in here that has like 15 panels on it. I forget where it is, so I don't know if I'll hit it going by. Look at that. Fan service. Luckily, I don't mind fan service. The thing about the metal bikini, I get that in no way looks like anything anyone would wear. But Thorne draws her, she looks pretty well built. And, I'd hate to see it in a movie. In a movie, suspending your disbelief is a lot harder. And I don't like seeing 100-pound women, with what's obviously a fake broadsword they're swinging around like it was nothing. I'm not crazy about that. But in this comic, I think this all works. Like I said, the metal bikini is not something I think translates to live action stuff very well, but within the context of these things, great. There are a couple stories in here. I remember this one. This is a kind of a real Scooby-Doo type thing where somebody is trying to convince them there's a Medusa in the village, and the convoluted way they have of doing these dummies and the reason why and everything, it's pretty ludicrous. So occasionally it's not really that great. But there's some cool stuff in here. Even in this one where the Medusa is fake, there's a cool looking dragon-looking thing there. That's not real, though. That's a fake thing, I think. I don't think she really kills the dragon. It's just a statue. It has to do with the Medusa thing. I don't know. But even in this one where it's that goofy thing, there's some cool stuff. This is another one that's very Scooby-Doo-like, but I won't give it away. And there's just a lot of cool stuff. There's a really cool werewolf man in there. Oh, these alligator people, I think, are really well done. They're really cool. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in here. Now, as we go back through, and there's a lot more Thorne. Thorne was going on long after I quit reading. Again, there were various reasons why I stopped reading at one point. So, but I didn't realize that there had been this much of it. But it's great looking. And then we get to here, I'm going to flip back here a little ways. And like this, doesn't say which issue that's from, but this is from an issue of the comic. But if we go back further, that's from Cull and the Barbarians. Was that a black and white one? And I didn't generally pick up the Cull books. I was already buying so much. But this one looks weird to me, the art in here. It's a little off. Oh, here's some of the. I get to. So this is from Savage Sword of Conan. So it was originally in black and white. So it would have been printed bigger. The weird thing is here that the halftones that they had put in for the black and white look really kind of weird with the coloring on top of them. And I'm not sure what the difference is, because I've seen black and white stuff with halftones colored before, and it didn't look quite this way. Maybe one of you with more technical expertise can let me know about that. But there's some parts where it looks kind of really off because of it. Um, but still some more great art. There's some weird, these monsters are really weird, and they look like a Charles Band kind of monster from one of those terrible Gremlin ripoffs. That's a funny one too. And this is weird. Kind of weird artwork. But, you know, it's something different. And like I said, I really only know the first third of it. I can't wait to dig into this, and read some of these things. It looks like a lot of fun. And even if there's some art that doesn't look that... Wow, this is cool. I don't know this stuff. Look at that. That's a great monster. And look at the gore. Wow, was this from Savage Sword? Is this something that was originally in black and white? What is this from? Yeah, this was originally a black and white one. That's great. I like that. I like that a lot. Oh, look at the slaughter in there. Oh, and there's another one of these weird Lovecraftian looking monsters. Okay. So anyway, oh, and here's the covers. I like when they have the covers before the stories in the book. And actually, I was thinking that maybe they didn't have the covers in here, but here are the covers. They're just all at the back of the book. Very cool. Very cool. And one thing I will say, the paper is really thin here, but I don't, and but like with that other big omnibus that's 1,500 pages, the paper is so thin. A lot of times you're seeing artwork from one, from like if you're looking at this, you might see some of the artwork from the back of the page and vice versa. I didn't notice that on any of this stuff. So it's not thick paper, but it's pretty good. Wow, yeah, it's nice. Oh, and here's pinups, I guess. That's where so speaking of pinups, like I say, Dynamite has had Red Sonja for well over a decade. I really don't know how long. But they started doing it when I was not reading, because of depression and no money. I had a very, a time when I really wasn't buying comics for years. And, always basically started getting back into it at some point. So, my comic reading and buying, will go for a long time pretty fiercely. Then we'll have a lull and I'll have to purge some of my collection. And then, there's been a big cycle throughout my life. I'm not familiar with the Dynamite stuff. My local comic shop does not get them, so you can't look at them and see what they're like. I imagined, because I've seen some of their things, where the covers are really great, but the stories inside are lackluster, and sometimes the art's good, sometimes not so good. If there's anybody out there who's familiar with the Dynamite runs and can recommend, like if there's a trade of an artist you think did a really good run or something, I mean, that'd be great. What I'd really like is for them to put out a book where they did all the variant covers collected together, because they get some great artists just to do these variant covers. But I don't buy comics just for the variant cover, even if I really like the artist. I just don't, I don't do that. I wish if I had enough money, I probably would. There's some of them where I'd buy like all 4 of the variants they're offering or something. Although, sometimes you'll look and you'll see there'll be 8 variants covers for one book. I mean, for crying out loud. So anyway, that's the book. I hope you liked looking through it. Like I said, it's for one of these omnibuses. I wish it was larger size. I think it's a great bargain for because the retail price is $40. You can definitely find it for less. So the binding's pretty good. I think that they did a great job of it. Anyway, there you go. Hope you enjoyed that. And let me know. Like I said, anything you can recommend.